Is Tyrese Haliburton overrated? According to those in the NBA, yes. His name was at the top in an anonymous poll that the league runs at the end of each season. The flashy passes, the three-point shooting, the all-star appearances, yet some still doubt him. They say he's a frontrunner, that he's not a true superstar. But what if we have been looking at Tyrese Haliburton all wrong? Behind the noise, behind the podcast clips, and even him fighting with Damian Lillard, he is a floor general who doesn't just play basketball, he orchestrates it. From being overlooked in the draft to becoming the face of a franchise he didn't anticipate joining, Haliburton's journey is filled with proof that he's more than what the critics say. Maybe the real truth isn't that Tyrese Haliburton is overrated. Maybe he's one of the most underrated stars in the league. This is the story of Tyrese Haliburton, the misunderstood maestro of the NBA. I was so shocked that so many NBA players found Haliburton overrated, because when you look at his NBA career so far, I don't think he's really been in the spotlight that much. How can you be overrated when you were never really even rated to begin with? He wasn't that highly rated when he was drafted, and most of his top performances have frankly gone under the radar. In 2020, Haliburton heard his name called out as the 12th pick by the Sacramento Kings. Yes, he joined a franchise that pretty much nobody cared about. So from the beginning, the spotlight wasn't on him. He wasn't a top 5 pick. He wasn't even a top 10 pick. On top of that, scouts questioned his awkward shooting form. It looked like the type of jump shot you'd make on 2K just to mess around. Then they wondered if his athleticism and his overall game would translate to the pros. He literally wasn't seen as a future star, just a safe pick. But Tyrese had other plans. When he made his NBA debut on December 23rd, 2020, he didn't waste time showing what he could do, dropping 12 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and even a block in an overtime win against Denver. It was a glimpse of the high IQ, do-it-all guard that the Kings didn't know they had wanted. Because remember, during this time, the Sacramento Kings already had a very good point guard, De'Aaron Fox. But Tyrese was showing that he could do things that Fox couldn't. As the season went on, Haliburton actually became one of the few bright spots in Sacramento. Like I told you guys, this is a depressing team. Now in the beginning, he wasn't flashy in the way that the highlight reels demand. But if you actually watched him play, you saw a player far beyond his years. Smooth passing, smart decision making, clutch plays. On April 14th, 2021, he grabbed a career-high 6 steals in a single game, proving that he wasn't just about the offense. But just as he was gaining momentum, a knee injury in May cut his rookie season short. Whatever buzz he had gotten at that time, it was gone. Even his injury didn't really get that much media frenzy. Unless you were a Kings fan, it wasn't something that was really that talked about. He finished 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting and earned a spot on the NBA All-Rookie First Team. But it still felt like the league hadn't truly noticed him. In his second season, Tyrese kept doing what he always did, producing. On January 29, 2022, he dropped a then career-high 38 points against the 76ers. A week later, he dished out 17 assists in a win over OKC. But again, I don't remember people going that crazy about these performances back then. It's not like he was LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards. Everybody knew he was a solid player, but he wasn't in any sort of crazy discussions. He was a rising star hidden in plain sight. And then came the trade, the moment that proved just how underrated Haliburton really was. Despite being one of Sacramento's best players, the Kings sent him packing mid-season. It was a decision that shocked fans. Many thought that Haliburton was going to be the face of this franchise going forward. He was one of the few bright spots. Everybody loves to play with a point guard who's pass first, but it also showed how little the league actually truly valued what Tyrese brought to the table. Yes, you can argue that the trade was actually good at the time. Since Sacramento already had a very good point guard, it made more sense to bring in Sabonis, somebody who didn't need the ball as much. At the same time though, if Haliburton was actually rated that highly, Sacramento wouldn't have traded him. They would have found a way to make the 2 point guards work. The trade though was the first time that he was actually being talked about by national media. People were trying to analyze who won the trade, who lost it. But what nobody realized was that this trade wasn't the end of Haliburton's story. It might have been the end of his time in Sacramento, but it was the beginning of something far more special in his career. Now the trade did confirm something that many had always thought. Haliburton was good, but not that good. Again, like I said it earlier, who trades a future superstar if they truly believe in him? But while Sacramento may have given up on him, the Indiana Pacers saw something different. Coach Rick Carlisle didn't hold back, calling Tyrese an elite young point guard that affects the game positively in many, many ways.
And Tyrese, he he came through again.
It was one of the first times that someone had publicly rated Haliburton for what he truly was. And Tyrese wasted no time proving Carlisle right. In his Pacers debut on February 11th, Haliburton dropped 23 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and 3 steals. 2 nights later, he followed that up with 22 points and a stunning 16 assists. Game after game, he showed Indiana that they didn't just trade for a young guard, they had found their franchise cornerstone. Because this is what Haliburton does. He can get you a bucket, but he can also run the entire offense. Yes, he can score, but he's always looking for his teammates as well. In a time where everybody is so focused on their numbers, I feel like it's a privilege to have a point guard who actually thinks of the team as a whole rather than himself. In his third game, Tyrese led the Pacers to a win with 21 points and 14 assists against the Wizards. Quietly, without the hype machine behind them, Haliburton was putting up numbers that most young guards could only dream of. It's tough to get any sort of hype when you go from the Kings to the Pacers. With all respect to both franchises, they're not teams that are talked about. Unless you're from one of the big markets in Miami, New York, LA, ESPN and other outlets, they're not really gonna talk about you like that, which is a shame because as you can see, he's incredible. So while others were chasing headlines, Tyrese was collecting respect where it mattered. He earned a spot in the 2022 Rising Stars Challenge and teamed up with Desmond Bane to win the Clutch Challenge during All-Star Weekend. At least finally he was getting some recognition. When he faced his old team, the Kings, on March 23rd, Haliburton let his game do the talking, dropping 15 assists in a near double-double performance. No drama, no revenge quotes, just elite basketball. Like I said, before this guy started doing podcasts, he really wasn't a super talked about player. Then came April, where Tyrese put on a masterclass against the Boston Celtics, scoring 30 points in just 25 minutes, hitting nearly every shot he took. He was even 6 for 6 from beyond the arc. 2 days later, he almost got a triple-double, 19 points, 17 assists, 9 rebounds, and in typical Haliburton fashion, 0 turnovers. I mean, the guy was regularly getting double-doubles while not giving the ball away. He's flashy in the way that he throws some of the nicest dimes I've ever seen, but I guess he wasn't flashy in the way that sports networks love. He's not gonna dunk on you and posterize you. He can hit threes, but he's not gonna be like Steph Curry. Instead, what he's gonna give you on a night-to-night basis is smart, efficient point guard play. But that kind of style, it doesn't get you the hype. He's not gonna be part of the viral highlights or be the topic of endless debates. That was always the thing with him. I felt like he was always overlooked. The only guys that were talking about him were Ryan Russillo and anyone else who's a league pass addict. Because again, at this time, nobody was watching the Indiana Pacers, but they knew how good Haliburton was, and soon the rest of the NBA would have no choice but to recognize Haliburton's talent as well. By the time the 2022-2023 season tipped off, Haliburton was no longer just a promising young guard. He was the guy in Indiana. But even as the Pacers handed him the keys, the rest of the league still wasn't paying that much attention. So Haliburton let his game speak louder than any headline. In the season opener, he dropped 26 points and 7 assists, a quiet reminder that this was his team now. A month later, he was named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, leading the Pacers to a perfect 3-0 run while averaging a double-double. But Tyrese, he wasn't done making history. By late November, he did something that no one in NBA history has ever done. 40 plus assists with 0 turnovers across 3 games. This wasn't just good, it was elite basketball IQ on full display. Yet again, somehow, it barely made waves outside of Indiana. Game after game, Tyrese kept proving that he was a different kind of star. 35 points on near perfect shooting against Brooklyn, 33 points to take down the mighty Celtics. And then on December 23rd, Haliburton went crazy, hitting a game-winning 3-pointer and dropping a career-high 43 points, including a franchise record 10 threes to beat Miami. As a point guard, what else do you want to see? He was scoring at an efficient rate, he was creating without causing turnovers, and defensively he could come up with a steal here and there. Which again begs the question, how is he overrated? How can you be overrated when no one's even giving you credit to begin with? For Haliburton though, the season wasn't without setbacks. In January of 2023, injuries sidelined him for 2 weeks, and the Pacers, they immediately felt his absence. They went 1-9 without him in the next 10 games. When he returned though, he picked up right where he left off, getting 26 points and 12 assists against the Lakers. February brought more milestones, 30 points and 12 assists against Utah, his first All-Star selection, where he showed up with 18 points, a strong run in the 3-point contest. But March was when Haliburton fully unleashed his brilliance. In back-to-back games, he hit another game winner against Chicago.
Haliburton against Beverly. Here's a long 3. Haliburton got it!
Then followed it up by becoming the first player in Pacers history to post 39 points and 16 assists in a single game. He did it against the Philadelphia 76ers. Just days later, he dished out a career-high 19 assists in an overtime win over Houston. By the end of the season, Haliburton had joined a legendary club, becoming just the 15th player in NBA history to average 20 plus points and 10 plus assists across a full season. The funny thing is that wasn't even the craziest part. You know what truly set him apart? He did all of that while shooting over 40% from 3, something that no one had ever done before. These weren't empty stats. These were numbers that should have put him in conversation with the league's elite. But once again, there wasn't that much hype. Yes, he got selected to the All-Star game, but no one was out here calling him a superstar. There were no viral debates about his greatness. It was almost pity love. Oh yeah, Tyrese, that good little point guard on the Indiana Pacers. It wasn't true star recognition. He was making history almost weekly, but when you look back at that season, I don't even think his rise was a top 5 narrative in the league. Even though people weren't calling him a superstar, by the 2024 season, he had gone from an overlooked draft pick to the face of the Indiana Pacers. That part everybody could agree on. The franchise had a new face, and everyone knew it. To be fair, this was already confirmed in the summer of 2023, when the Pacers handed him a $260 million max extension, a statement that this was his team for years to come.
My mom has been my everything for me to get here. It just means a lot to me, so I love you.
He was doing exactly what people thought he would do in Sacramento. He was just doing it in Indiana. But even at that point, whispers of doubt remained. Was Haliburton actually a superstar? Did he deserve that max extension? Or was he just putting up empty numbers on a mid-tier team? Well, Haliburton didn't answer those questions with words. He answered them on the court. In many ways, the 2024 season was when Haliburton really took the leap. We're not talking about the leap to being Indiana's leader, but truly becoming one of the NBA's most elite guards. Early in November, he dropped 43 points and 12 assists, becoming the first player in Pacers history to post 40 plus points and 10 plus assists in a single game. Days later, he was making history again, joining legends like Allen Iverson and Chris Paul with back-to-back games of 25 plus points, 15 plus assists, and 0 turnovers. He was literally doing what some of the greatest point guards in NBA history have done. At one point, he was doing things that only players like LeBron, Harden, and Stockton had ever done. 3 of the best playmakers the league has ever seen. By the end of November, Haliburton was putting up numbers that put him alongside Michael Jordan and LeBron James, like when he averaged 25 points, 10 assists, while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from 3 in a single month. I had to do research to find these numbers, because I don't remember anybody talking about that in the 2024 season. That's how much Haliburton has always gone under the radar. It actually wasn't until his first career triple-double against Boston and his jaw-dropping stretch in December where he recorded 20 points, 20 assist games without a single turnover that more people actually started to pay attention. By January, nobody could deny how good he was, hence why he was named as a starter for the 2024 NBA All-Star game. He wasn't just a participant, but he was actually leading the East on his home court in Indianapolis. You could argue maybe that's why he was selected. Maybe that's how he finally got the hype. The fact that the All-Star game was in his city. He didn't disappoint, dropping 32 points and 10 threes, nearly stealing the All-Star MVP from Damian Lillard. I guess these guys have beef going back all the way to 2024. Again, the milestones kept coming. On April 5th, he set a Pacers franchise record for the most assists in a season, surpassing Mark Jackson. And when the season finally ended, he got the recognition that was deserved, earning his first ever All-NBA selection. Think about it, the guy had never made All-NBA before, and people are calling him overrated. Wouldn't an overrated guy be constantly in All-NBA selections? Like, even if he didn't deserve him, wouldn't he be there? I don't know, I'm just confused. But Haliburton knew he wasn't done yet. Now it was time to prove himself on the biggest stage, the NBA playoffs. See, one of the biggest reasons that he probably wasn't getting that much recognition was because Indiana hadn't made any noise in the postseason yet. But in 2024, their team was solid as a rock, especially with the acquisition of Pascal Siakam. They had jumped from a fun, fast-playing team to a team that could definitely make some noise in the playoffs. In Game 3 of the first round against the Bucks, Haliburton delivered a clutch triple-double, sealing the win with a game-winning 3-point play in overtime. In the next round against the Knicks, he dropped a playoff career-high 35 points, leading Indiana to their first Eastern Conference Final appearance in a decade. Anybody that was saying he's putting up empty numbers just looked even stupider. This guy had shined at each stage of the playoffs. Unfortunately, in Game 2 of the conference finals, Haliburton suffered a hamstring injury, which forced him to miss the rest of the series. Without their leader, the Pacers were swept by Boston. It was a close sweep though. Pretty much all 4 games were really close. I don't know how anybody can see his playoff run that year and say he's overrated. He looked fantastic against a Boston team that ended up winning the whole thing. You would have thought that after a year where he shattered records, led his team deep into the playoffs, that he would finally earn some recognition among his peers. And yet somehow the narrative still lingered. Is Tyrese Haliburton overrated? Well, Tyrese Haliburton entered the next season with the same story hanging over him. He was still doubted, but he didn't really need validation. He just kept doing what he always does, quietly making history. On November 10th, 2024, he dropped 35 points and 14 assists against the Knicks. It was another big night. Alongside Benedict Mathurin, they became the first duo in Pacers history to each score 35 plus points in the same game. Another record, another win, but barely a whisper outside of Indiana. Fast forward to the new year, and Haliburton got 33 points, a season-high 15 assists, and once again 0 turnovers in a win over Miami. It was surgical. It was efficient. It's the kind of stats they teach you about the most elite point guards. Guys who are able to make their teammates better, and do it without giving the opposition any chance of getting the ball. He actually became the first player in NBA history to post multiple games with 30 plus points, 15 plus assists, and no turnover. And then came March 11th, a big game against the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that really doesn't like Tyrese Haliburton, which makes sense, he always cooks them. And this time it was no different. He pulled off a clutch 4-point play to win the match.
Pacers down 3. Haliburton's got the ball. Haliburton rises up.
Once again, when it mattered the most, he was the calmest player on the court. As the months went on, he just kept breaking records. He was not passing legends. He actually passed Chris Paul for the most games in NBA history with 20 plus points, 10 plus assists, and no turnovers. Like, think about that. Chris Paul is universally seen as one of the greatest point guards of all time. Certainly one of the best floor generals. And Haliburton was performing at his level. He was playing like the point god. Yet this survey comes out and people call him overrated. Maybe it's a small margin of people. After all, there's not that many people in the NBA. But I'm just curious how Haliburton was the first name on people's tongue. The other names in that list made sense. I can see why people would call Rudy Gobert overrated. But Haliburton, a guy that elevates the floor on his team, someone who can dish out dimes for free, someone who can score when you need it the most, I don't get it. He's delivered clutch moments, he's selfless. Maybe it's the fact that he talks trash when he's ahead, but is he the first guy to do that? The truth, in my opinion, is that Tyrese Haliburton has never been overrated. From college to Sacramento to Indiana, I feel like he's been underrated his whole career. Maybe this is a good thing for him. Maybe by calling him overrated, people in the league are at least finally starting to notice his talent. Because at the end of the day, it's better to be spoken about, even if it's in a negative light, than not talked about at all. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll love this one as well. Check it out right here.